Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. Joining me right now from our New York City studio is Lou Dobbs, the man in the Wall Street Journal called TV's premier business news anchorman. You can catch him on the Fox Business Network, where he hosts Lou Dobbs Tonight at 7 and 10 p.m. But right now we're going to focus on his new book just released January 7th. It's called Upheaval. Mr. Dobbs, it's great to have you in our Newsmax studios.
Great to be with you, John.
All right, so you say America has become unmoored from its moral center, and you point out facts like corporate giants paying zero taxes, an abandoned middle class. But what for you personally was the point at which you said, you know, I got to write a book about this? Where's the tipping point that you said America's moral compass needs to be recalibrated?
Well, that moral compass is a daily concern, of course, for a guy who is a working stiff like me, working on the daily national story. The tipping point has come with two successive presidential elections won by Democrats. It's a two-party political system, of course, and I don't see the other political party doing very well, and there are a host of reasons for it. And I thought they needed a little nudge, if you will, John, to think about some of the major forces that are going to create upheaval in our society and have done so, and they have to be discussed. And so, you know, I move forward with the book.
You say the modern era of business, crony capitalism, things like that, is way worse now than it was back in the 19th century, the days of the robber barons. Of course, that gave way to folks like Teddy Roosevelt, who had a progressive agenda. He came as a trust buster, I should say. Is it time to break up these massive institutions, not just maybe the banks, but also things like the government unions, the government bureaucracies, and also some of the other private sector unions as well?
John, I'm an independent conservative. I'm not affiliated with either party, but I am loath to ever bring government power into the public arena, the public marketplace. But in the instance of too big to fail, and I talk about this in Upheaval, when you have 12 banks that command over 60% of the total assets in commercial banking. That's 0.2% of all banks with 69% of asset control. It's time to at least restoring, in my opinion, Glass-Steagall, separating investment banking and commercial banking. And I think the sooner we do it, the safer we will all be, because this is an immense risk to capital, to our society, to the economy, and when honest, bankers themselves will acknowledge that. Seldom on camera, but they will acknowledge it.
One of the analogies that's used sometimes is chemotherapy in situations like that. It's essentially poison meant to kill the cancer, but sometimes you got to step in there and take some extreme measures. Reinstituting Glass-Steagall, some folks might say that is an extreme measure. What do you say to those folks that say, you know, there should be no government intervention in situations like this, and that the hand of the market should play itself out?
Yeah, well, that would be, utter madness. I know that there is a view that that is the case. I happen to be, there is no one who's a greater advocate of free enterprise, capitalism than I am. But I am also keenly aware as a student of history, and particularly the history of this nation, how important it is to set boundaries and to set limits on power, whether it be the power of unions or whether it be the power of corporations. We are a nation that is, it's directed by a two-party political system. Right now, as I said, we have two parties who are effectively trying to diminish the individual, not empower the individual in our society. That is, and this is the first time in the modern era that's occurred. We've got to have a Republican Party, if they are to be successful as a countervailing influence in the marketplace, in society, and amongst the electorate, that celebrates the individual, whose self-reliance and independence make this system work and give a foundation to the middle class and the American dream.
Let's look ahead at 2014, if you could, Lou. And you mentioned we're in this two-party system here. There are not a lot of options. But what do voters do? You say we've been failed by both parties over the last 10 or so years. Where do voters go? And what should they focus on in these midterm elections?
Oh, I think that the only way to be effective here, and as I said, I'm an independent right now, but I will tell you, I'm thinking very, very hard about, before we go into those primaries, about registering again as a Republican. because I think that that is the only way in which we're going to see the popular will energized and given political force. And we are desperate as a nation for that force to be felt in Washington, D.C. That's the first thing. People should go out and, in my opinion, register as Republicans and start making a difference within the Republican Party, which has become a party of the establishment, a party that is pushing back against and basically already waging war against the Tea Party. And John, I'll point out, 2010 was the highest level of energy in a midterm election in decades.
Yeah, and you can already hear some sighs of relief being breathed up there in Wyoming for that the race involving Liz Cheney and Richard Enzi. Let's focus on one issue in particular, and I know it's something you care deeply about, and that's immigration reform. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce has come out in support of some sort of comprehensive immigration reform. House Speaker John Boehner says he's open to the idea. How important do you think this particular issue is going to be, not just for the economy, but also for the elections in 2014?
Oh, I think there's no question. John Boehner has it in his hands to either establish the Republican Party as a powerful force that will win the midterm elections, win back the Senate, or assure that the Republican Party will be further diminished and give away control of the House. And the way he could do that is to not acknowledge that Congressman Bob Goodlatte, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, is to not acknowledge his leadership. Right now, the Republicans in the House are leading on the issue of immigration reform. You use the word, John, comprehensive immigration. That's become a buzzword for the left. It's become a buzzword for the president and for the democratically led Senate, the Gang of Eight. It's all silliness. What we need to do is solve the problem. For the illegal immigrants are here, for business, for the national interest first and foremost. And I believe the approach taken by Congressman Goodlatte and the Judiciary Committee is the appropriate response, because it provides legal status, it resolves the border security issues, provides a sensible, rational system within the workplace to verify status. That's why I endorse it as immigration reform. It is here waiting to be seized if only the Democrats and the Republican establishment leadership understands the opportunity that's before them.
Now, on this issue, Goodlatte is clearly leading there. Do you say he's maybe the de facto leader of the Republican Party in the House right now?
I think he is, without question. Intellectually and politically, I think the man is responsible for most of the most important initiatives taking place, not only within the House, but within the federal government right now. The most rational and most effective policies.
And one of the other issues that's clearly already in play and is going to be a huge talking point in the 2014 midterms is income inequality, raising the minimum wage, extending these unemployment benefits. We're already talking about this. We're in the 6th day of 2014. Democrats are already trying to paint Republicans as the bad guys in this issue, and it's difficult for Republicans to fight back against the Democrats and liberals on these issues. Republicans want to be talking about things like comprehensive tax reform, regulation reform, reining in the EPA. How can they change the topic of conversation and put things on the docket that are more important to them and things that they can do better on in the election?
I think, by the way, talking about lower regulation, less regulation, lower taxes, less taxation, limiting the size of government, have just about the same ring in the ears of voters as does income inequality and all of the other blather of the left. The fact is, what people want to hear from leaders right now is what we're going to do in foreign policy that secures the interest of this nation internationally. They want to hear what the working man and woman, our middle class, will be able to do, will be empowered to do, and whether or not they're going to be treated, the citizens of this country, are going to be treated as first consumers or first citizens, first taxpayers or first citizens. And the Republican Party has a unique and historic opportunity to hold up the standard of the American middle class, the national interest, and free enterprise, and drive those messages to the polls in November of this year and win back the Senate. But they've got to stop this nonsense of creating wars within this tent before they can even get the doors open. And by that I mean the establishment, which has failed miserably in the leadership of the Republican Party, has got to step aside and acknowledge the breath of fresh air that awaits from the Tea Party, from the other groups that make up the conservative foundation of the Republican Party. Come together around basic, fundamental national values and move ahead and understand this is a battle for survival with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I can hear in your voice there, Lou, you're pumped up about this. And the first thing you say folks need to do is go out there and register and get involved in their local Republican Party. This is something you've already done or something you plan on doing before the elections come up?
Well, I've already done that locally, and I'll be doing it nationally as well.
All right, well, the new book from Lou Dobbs is called Upheaval. A great conversation here today, and good luck out there on the book tour, Lou.
Thanks so much, John. Appreciate it.
And thanks for stopping by the studios, and thanks for watching Newsmax TV.